Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Hopefully, you can see me and hopefully you can hear me. I have a couple of people that have just joined the webinar. So, just want to make sure, just do a quick sound check. Just want to make sure, can you see me? Can you hear me? Am I coming through loud and clear, please? Someone could put into the chat box. We'll use the chat box today even for questions. If you've got any questions, so please, if you could let me know, that would be fantastic. Loud and clear. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to our webinar today. My name is Colin Wilson. I'm the Director of Key Business Advisors, and I look forward to hosting this webinar, which is all about the power of succession planning in your business. And I think, this is what it's all about. How do we create some form of succession plan in our business? And I'm going to talk about not just putting people into roles, but it's about making sure that we've got that people depth, that redundancy happening within your business. Okay, so some of the things we're going to talk about in today's webinar. So why succession planning is so important. And I guess the foundations of identifying future leaders, because we want to create leadership within every business that we do. And what's really, really important is, how we develop, your future emerging leaders into a success story of your business. So more than happy to take any questions, happy at the very end if you want to have a chat with me. I'm all an interactive person, so I'm all about making sure that this webinar is well and truly well worth your time. Okay, so for people who don't know me, my name is Colin Wilson. Absolutely love what I do. It's not work. We've been operating for 17 years, coming up 18 years in February of next year. And really, some of the things that we enjoy is the fact that our business, we're all about taking business from good to great, but we're also about taking our own business from good to great. And I'll share some of that success with you later down the track, which is relevant to the succession planning that I'm speaking about. We employ 12 staff within the business. I'm not just a consultant that comes out and says, this is how you do it. We live and breathe everything that you do in a business. We pay wages, we have we've got a payroll, we have our got to pay our super, our obligations, our BAS, all the things. We're always constantly developing our products and services to get better and better. And that is all about what you need to do in your business. So we practice what we preach. And I'm more than happy to open up to any of our clients who come and see what we do, because I'm very proud of my business and we showcase it to a lot of people. Our mission, as per the book Jim Collins, is taking a business from good to great. And our purpose is to take our customers on a journey to help them through all aspects to improve, employee engagement and performance. So we know if we've got great employee engagement, you actually get the performance that comes with it. So, we've walked into a business of recent where all they want to do is they want results, but you need to build that people depth. You need to get that culture right to actually get the results. What we don't want to do is lose good people within our business. And people do come and go into business. It's happened to us. That is just the fact of life. But as employers, or managers, we try our very, very best to create an environment where people want to come to work. Okay. 4 pillars to our business, which I think is really interesting. Strategy and growth, which we'll talk a bit about today. Having that culture right, people culture right. We are an outsourced HR business. And we, not only do we help people on what to do, we also train them on what to do as well, which I think is a big point of difference out there in the marketplace. But I'm going to start off with this one word. It's called imagine. Right, so when we start thinking about succession planning, just imagine what it would be like if your business was growing its profits, its revenue, year on year. And, in particular, your net profit is growing every year. Just imagine what that feeling would be like. And imagine you've built a leadership team where all your managers, all your leaders are all on the same page in wanting to go into the future direction of the business and totally understand that. And imagine, that we've got, staff that are highly trained. They know your products and services. They know them inside and out. They've got massive IP in your business of your process and systems. And they're taking all that pain away that you have to do, that extra work. And the last one for me, if I can say, is imagine going on a holiday overseas where you're gone for a month or 6 weeks and you don't have to look at your business because you've actually built a team that can actually manage and take care of your business. That is the ultimate feeling of a business owner, not having to live through that stress factor. And of recent, I explained that to a customer, they work in their business, 7 days a week. The business owns them, not the other way around. So, this what I will talk about. Imagine this is what we need to do as business owners, as managers. Imagine our department, imagine our company. Why we need to build succession plan in our business, because we will need people to take things away from us so we can go on and do other things, which I'll share with you as part of this process. Okay, so let me get into my first topic of why succession planning is so important. So when we talk about succession planning, it is about, how do we put people into our company that can actually take work away from us. So again, we do less and they do more. So if I'm a small business and I employ like 5 staff, then you pretty much 4 or 5 staff, you're pretty much doing everything. But as your business grows into 10, 12, 15, 20, 50 people, departments start to form. And what's really, really important is we want to make sure that we've got the right people in place and they're trained well to actually create that great culture. And we all want the results, but we know that we've got to work towards getting people up to speed to get those results. So the first thing I want to do is, we talk about future planning. It's about future proofing. I want to future proof my business. I go on a holiday, I know I've got a team that can actually run my business. And, as depending on what age bracket you are, you're like, I'm not ready to retire yet, but there is a plan in place that I want to future proof my business. So, I can go and do things that I want to do. And that's part of the cycle in business. We turn 18 years next year. I'm doing a lot of international speaking now, so things are changing. So I've got to build a team that actually can run our business, which I'll share with you as we go. So we talk about empowering your future leaders. So, what does it do? So first of all, it creates a pathway to success. So I want to, build a team where we create leadership. Now, we want everyone in our company to own their role, right? So we want them to come to work because they want to come to work, not because they have to come to work. And that's a sign of a great team. But we want to create a pathway to success. So if they can see that pathway, we have more chance of them staying and growing with you than actually leaving. Yeah. And then, we want to showcase that we care. So we talk about planning and what we want to do. So I'm very big on strategy, very big on anyone's done any of my webinars or worked with us. I'm very big on, what does our vision look like in 3 years? What's our stepping stone in the next 2 years to get it? So, the way we do a strategic planning session is we get that vision, we put it into place, and then we have like 8 quarters. And then each quarter we're trying to achieve things to actually doing it and setting it up. Building leadership is a great way of doing it. So identifying that I need somebody, in this area to become my next leader, my next team leader. And then the next thing is, how do I build that redundancy under them? You'd be surprised of just how many businesses we go into where we look at an org chart and there's one manager and there's no second in charge or no future leader coming through, and that person leaves, and all of a sudden it's devastation to the actual business owner and the business. So small business, you lose somebody in marketing, you become now the marketing person. That's just how it actually works. But we're always doing things that we can put in place to build that succession plan in place. And if you ever want to get it to a point where you want to sell your business, well, it says that, other people got to run your business, not you. Otherwise, it's pretty much not sellable. You are the IP, and we don't want that if we run a professional service businesses like what we have here at KBA. So it showcases you care, it can give them more responsibility. So I want to identify a leader, I want to give them more responsibility, and it's about setting them up to succeed. We don't want to see anyone fail in a business, and that's, again, a sign of a good business. It's just, it assists with setting higher standards. So if I've got, if I'm one manager in the department, if I use an example of this, and I'm pushing, and I've got, 5 or 6 people that work underneath me, but if all of a sudden I've got a future leader or emerging leader, which is part of the succession plan, rather than 1 on 6, I could be 2 on 3. If that sort of makes some sort of sense. So we're delivering that same message, and that's all part of your culture. You can get these people involved to help get clarity and buy-in on projects. And I think the big thing is that trust factor. We know, how do we get a team, a leadership team, And I class future leaders, emerging leaders, people who care as part of that team. And if you can get it to the point where the whole company cares, then you have actually got it made as a business. But you teach them to become more results orientated. So we start to teach them some of the business acumen of the business and how it all works, and get them involved in some planning sessions. And your goal is to get them to teach them to teach others, which is part of the process of succession planning. And this is how you sort of develop them through. I think what's important is you set the expectations on what you want your future emerging leader to look like, if that makes sense. So many companies go out and they try and buy a manager. And in the book Good to Great, the case study is that if you develop leaders through your business, you end up with a much better result. You actually will grow at a higher rate because they've got the IP of the business. If I go and employ somebody from the outside to come in, then they've still got another 6 to 12 months to learn how the business operates before they can get it to that, just kick it into that next level. So we look at that, future emerging leader. We're developing them through, and the thing we want is leadership qualities. This person have natural leadership qualities. And big one for me is the right attitude. So the attitude is perfect. They've got leadership qualities. They want to help people. They're a team player. They're very good at their communication, and they just understand the business acumen. And that's something you have to teach if they don't understand it. But I think, again, that goes back to your strategy in a business. If we can teach our team how our business makes money, why cross-selling and upselling is important, why customer service, customer output is important, why the whole team together as a whole team with culture is important, because all of that contributes to the bottom line of your business. We can then get them to help drive, those company goals, help out, the company achieve its company goals and objectives, and we get them part of that process. And you go away on holidays, someone's still got to run your meeting. So again, why not get them to participate in some of your team meetings? And by the way, a boring meeting is not worth even having. So again, that's part of your training of what you actually do, the old 80-20 rule. So we teach them to become a good facilitator. They ask questions, they get other people talking in the room, and it links back to your mission, your vision, your purpose and values of what you're trying to achieve. And they can help with supporting new staff that get employed. So you can be part of our, you're a future leader. We've identified you. We want you to train Colin on how to use our CRM system. We want you to train Colin on how to use this particular machinery. So all of a sudden we give them more responsibility. We give them plenty of recognition and praise, and we appreciate it. And then we give them a bit of reward for effort from what we do. So we want to build that pathway for them, or that future horizon for them to come and develop in your business. Now, we know younger generation of today, we employ them, they want to come in and be a manager, without doing the work. Doing their apprenticeship is probably the better wording I want to say. But that's part of, you can get somebody young in your business, but you've got to explain to them these are the stepping stones of what it is. If you do an apprenticeship is normally a 3 or 4 year period. If I study to become a doctor or a lawyer, that could be 7 or 8. So again, explaining, you're coming into our business, you're in our business, we would like to develop you. And I'll talk about how you have that conversation with them to see if there's actually an interest for them as well. Okay, so when we talk about building, leadership or succession planning and creating that succession plan in your business, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we become an employer of choice, yeah, because we want to show that we care about our people who work for us. We want to develop them through, rather than go and find somebody outsource and bring them in. And again, we do at Key Business Advisors, we do a lot of engagement surveys, and we commonly hear that the company has gone and outsourced or gone and found a manager or a leader for the business. But I was never asked, I was never approached, there's never ever been a conversation. And normally what happens is that person then becomes disengaged in the business because they weren't approached, and they may leave, right? And that's typically what happens. So if you become an employer of choice, we know that stats tell us through ARI, which is the Australian Human Resource Institute, that you have a higher retention rate, right? Of 90% or higher if you become an employer of choice. And part of being an employer of choice is you make it known that we want to grow. This is our mission, vision, values. Here's our strategy where we want to go. and we want to, you'd say double the size of our business or add another 30% on, and we're looking to develop our people, our current people through our business, and we want to identify, future leaders in our business, and that's all part of that succession plan. Being an employer choice, and I'm going to talk about this a couple of times throughout my presentation, but to retain people today and to have a great business, it's got to have a good reputation. And it's got to have that culture that I spoke about with real positive communication. So communication is the be all and end all in any business that we want to grow. And again, we see it commonly when we go into companies that things happen in the business, but it hasn't been very well communicated. And that's what doesn't make you an employer of choice. That's what creates frustration. And again, as I say, sometimes people leave, and we don't want our key people leaving because that could be very damaging to the business. So leaders and managers provide that constructive feedback to direct reports regularly to allow employees to feel heard. So we want to do that two-way feedback. We want to make sure that we're checking in on them on a weekly, daily basis, and having that open communication. And we have a great HR manager in our business, Allyson. She always talks about the boomerang effect, right? So we want to reach out to them. How are you feeling? Where do you see when we do a performance appraisal? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? What training could we do to help you? So again, we want to see if there's an appetite there. And definitely if you put it out there, this is what we're looking for, you should see some form of appetite that people want to actually want to come through and help you grow your business. We definitely make sure they have that some sort of flexibility in the workplace, and that's just another webinar. And there's another webinar, on our portal that talks about that. But people want flexibility of today. So how does that work? What does it look like? Because we want to be an employer of choice, and a good benefits are on offer. So what can we do to help that particular person or that your company to be that employer of choice, where the person says, I'm in the right place. So when you think about this, when someone goes home and their partner says to them, how was your day at work today? If the person says it was terrible, there was bad communication, they've just appointed this person, they never considered me, what's going to eventually happen is that partner's going to coach them to leave your business, and we don't want that. So again, we just talk about training on the job and other training avenues. And I can just give you a live example. We've just interviewed a person to come into our business, and she asked that wonderful question, a young person, where do we see ourselves in 3 years' time? And then what type of training can we provide her to be successful? And again, that's I think my wife Lorraine and I we answered that very, very well with that person, because when we're recruiting today, people choose you just as much as you choose them. So we don't have a marketing person, and that's something that we're trying to achieve within the business. We've made some changes. Okay, so and then we talk about engagement. So again, people don't want to work in a company where staff are not engaged, and the reason why I'm talking about this is part of the journey of developing your people through. But I say, as it says there, the more aligned the team is, the more productive it will be. Engagement is having everyone on the same page, fully committed. Everyone should want to work more collaboratively together and be more cohesive of a team. So we can have collaboration in a business. Collaboration is easy. I can work with you. May not like you, but I can work with you. That's collaboration. But cohesiveness is, no, let's all get on board, and let's hold each other accountable and get more committed. And again, you want to breed that within your business. We delegate. We want to make sure that we give people more ownership, and they take responsibilities to help achieve your company goals and objectives. So again, a future leader, we can say to them, we want you to own this. We want you to take the responsibility, full responsibility. You own this as part of that success. And a big thing for me is part of building succession in your plan in your business, especially with future leaders or emerging leaders, is they got to learn how to work with different personalities, right? Because in today's world, we come to work, we have different cultures, people, nationality, backgrounds, we have different personalities. So again, that is all part of we want to develop a person that knows how to deal with all of that. So that ultimate word down the bottom there, team. Together, everyone achieves more. That is part of the reason why we want to get this engagement going. So, if you build a culture that you prefer to promote within, and you have that, what I call that burning effect. People want to come to work because they want to come to work, not because they have to. And you're putting the carrot out there that you want to make it known that we're going to develop future leaders within your company. That's part of your strategy. Then you're going to get a lot more engagement. So anyone that's worked with me knows just how strong I feel about taking your team on a journey. So, only 2 weeks ago, we took our staff away. So we went down to Hepburn Springs. We brought the team together. We talked about how we can improve things, what we can do to get better. We talked about, our vision of where we want to go. Talked about how we can improve our products, our processes, all the system. That is all part of the engine room of getting your team on board. And yes, it's a day and a half out of the business. And people go, Colin, how do you do that? But we've had the biggest month ever in our business following that because the team is engaged and they all want to be part of this success story, right? So, so we've made it quite known that there's some things that we want to do, within this business to actually go to that next level. And what I'm trying to explain here, I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs, but this energy and this process of building this foundation is what it's all about. So as an employer, you be proactive rather, be reactive. This is where we want to get to. This is what we need to do. And then we just follow those best practices in relation to enhancing motivation. Now, today's workplace, there are things you can say and there are things you can't say, and you can't abuse people, like they used to, 10, 20 years ago, although it still happens of today. But, that's not an employer of choice. And then, you're setting yourself up for failure. So again, our leaders, we need to teach our leaders on that professional image, why they need to behave the way they need to do, and why they need to lead as an emerging leader and be part of the brand of your mission, vision, and values. So we want this person to want to promote within. They've got to have high care factor, and people make mistakes, but it's what you do about the mistakes I think is what's really important. And we want that creating that that positive energy, that winning feeling that we are a great business. The old saying is, you are what you think, right? So I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but you've grabbed a hammer and a nail and you start thinking about, I'm going to hit my thumb with the hammer. Well, I guess what? You hit your thumb with the hammer because you thought about it. So again, leaders, emerging leaders, succession planning is about, this is the journey we're on, this is where we're actually going. So it's really, really important. So we want to focus on that business growth. Definitely want more revenue and higher profits. You can't be in business today if you're not trying to continue to grow your business and create, positive change, if I can say that. And we create a pathway for future leaders where they want to be part of your company. So one of our clients, can I say, I absolutely love him, right? He has done this brilliantly. He started his business the same time as we did, and he's had a huge success story, but he's still got that very first person that was his financial advisor. And he's now the general manager of his business, and they've gone from good to great and beyond, if I can say that. And it's just a pleasure to sit back and watch to see how that process has happened and developed within their business. Has this person taken higher risk? Massive risk, right? Has it paid off? Yes, it has. And that's just part of the journey of being a business owner. How do you go about getting staff minds on the board? That's a great question, Simon. So this goes back to, you setting the foundations of, this is our plan, this is what we want to do. And when we go into a company and we start turning things on, sometimes what happens is we don't get a full buy-in of people. They just don't want to be, they don't want to contribute, if that makes sense. And so HR best practice is to set it up right of where you want to go and what you want to do with them. And if they want to be part of the journey, fantastic. If they don't want to be part of the journey, then you know what, there are other alternatives. But we always go in, change the minds to get them on board. That's you explaining, this is where we need to be in 3 years. These are the stepping stones we need to go through to get there. And and we know that we're going to go through a bit of pain to actually get there. That will truly tell you whether your team are there because they come to work because they want to come to work, or do they come to work because they have to come to work, if that explains. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you, Simon, after this webinar if you want to talk a bit more about this, because it's so important that you actually get this right. Because when you've got a team, and I call it an A team, that is absolutely working perfectly together, things happen in the business, but they're very, very supportive of one another. It is the greatest feeling of all time. And I practice what we preach. Last year, my wife and I, we went to Europe to see our daughter for 4 weeks. Never stressed once about the business. The business still performed as if I was here, if I wasn't here. It was the greatest feeling. So it's easier said than done. And I totally agree with you, right? So, there are sometimes a team player that it's all about them and not about the company, and that can be painful. But that's something you just got to work through and set that foundations. I thought it'd be very relevant that I actually show you a part of our strategic plan, and this probably will help you, Simon, and what I'm talking about. So I'm very much lay out, this is where we want to be in 3 years. And you'll notice that we've got a vacancy there in marketing. Now, that's a replacement. We had a part-time person. Emma was fantastic, loved it. But, we need someone full-time because our revenue's grown. There's more demands on what we wanted to do. So we need somebody full-time and to come and make that happen. But you'll see there's a person there named Richard, right? As a business consultant, is in our business. He's my succession plan. He's the person that's coming through. I need to teach him 17 years of what I've done, and get him on the journey of where we want to go. And the thing is, when we do this process, there's some of these guys have got great ideas. Richard's got some brilliant ideas, and he's holding me more accountable of what I do, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So, and that does my head in a little bit, but I know it's needed because I want Richard then to go and help find that next, as you'll see there, that next junior business consultant that we want to get, that we can develop this person through to become a mini him, and all of a sudden we've built this business arm within the business. As you'll see in the HR team, that's actually done and set up beautifully, right? So, when someone comes into our business, normally they start off as a HR administrator, and then what we do through conversation, we then, part of their succession in the business is how do we come from administrator to a coordinator, advisor, to a consultant. And you'll see, Chris there's is our HR WHS consultant, and Allyson's our team manager. Allyson's been with us now over 6 years, I think coming up 7 years. So again, that's good. That's good longevity. And Gina is a person in our business that started off as administrator, and we've through training, development, her tagging with people, showing her that success. Then she's now we just made it official that she's a HR consultant. So and what I'll tell you, so I'm happy to share this. She left our business and then came back. And that's a sign of a great culture and a sign of good direction of what you want to set with your team. So again, I think that's really, really important. And then you'll notice over there, Belinda, well, she's not going nowhere. She's very content in our business, and I have no succession plan with that. But and I can first put my hand up on that one. But she works part-time, and that's all we actually need. And then we've got another business over there, which is a career business that we're trying to grow within the business. And there's a vacancy there for a business development career advisor that will come in the future. So those vacant roles, apart, the marketing one is the most immediate one we need right now. But as we go through our journey, every quarter we're going to talk about when's the next time to bring this person in, when do we start advertising, and that is all part of painting that picture to your team of this is where we're heading and this is where we're going. So when we go into businesses, we hear things like we failed to achieve this result. Well, we got 82% of our target. We missed by 18. So when I go into a company, I talk about the gap. Well, what was the gap? What could we do to improve? And then try and get the team involved. And again, it's about that ownership. So, you build those future leaders in your business. They take more ownership, better training, better understanding to make it happen. And training could be something you can do internally. You can get an outside person to like what we do, come in, or somebody else. You can put them on a public training course. Whatever you do, do something, right, to continue them growing. And that's our methodology of what we talk about when we take a business from good to great, which I'll go through. Okay, so that was my first topic. I hope that makes sense. And if you like what I said, just give me the thumbs up so I know I'm on the right track. So the next one is foundations. How do we identify these future leaders? So I talked a bit about that before. It's attitude. They're passionate about the job. So they're good listeners. They lead by example. They communicate well. And I think, product knowledge is a big thing. So they want to learn about your products, they want to understand your industry. Yes, we need to, show them and guide them and send them in the right direction. But we also want to see them taking ownership of that as well. Like you don't have to do everything for your employee. What is great is when they're showing that initiative, they're trying to start doing some learning on their own bat to try and, to try and help them lift their experience up and get on board. Be open to learning and development. So, there's a saying we say, you can't coach somebody who can't be coached. And maybe you want to write that one down, Simon, because if you've got somebody in your business that can't be coached or mentored in your business, maybe that's the problem. So again, that is where we sit back and go, this person who is a leader in our business that's going to help build the team, everyone's got to be open to being coached and mentored to actually help the benefit of the business. I think that is a big thing about that communication that we just need to do. And then that succession planning, well, as it said before, the foundations, like you are the future of our business. So, we need to build some foundations in this area. And we've seen it. We've got a great client, an absolute brilliant client that very, very successful, and they purchased another business. And they took two of their leaders from that business to send them across to the other business to get it up and running. The sad part is they didn't build that leadership underneath those two people who have gone to the other business, and now they're hemorrhaging a little bit. So this is part of that succession plan of what we need to do to make sure, hey, you know what, our plan is we're going to buy businesses. We want a growth model or expansion model. We want to grow or merge with somebody, and so what we need to build a team that when we do this, then we're ready to go and pounce on the business. I've seen this set up. I've seen this done very, very well, and I've also seen it done poorly. This business hasn't done a bad job, but it's hemorrhaging a little bit at the back. If I was to give my advice, which I've already done, let's build that next level of emerging leaders. Let's get them up and ready, so when the next time it happens, they're ready to step into that role, not having to learn from day one when they go into the actual role. And that's as simple as some of the things we just talked about. Training them to be a leader, train them how to lead themselves, lead others, manage a team. That's part of a process. And I have Emerging Leaders program, which is all about those key three things. So again, it creates purpose for both the owner, the manager, and the staff member of what we're trying to achieve. It empowers the staff member to strive, and it provides reassurance that you prefer to promote within and demonstrates that you have a plan, and it's peace of mind. What you don't do is you don't put the carrot out there that you're going to do this and then don't act on it, because that can also be detrimental to your business, and people start questioning what's going on. Ways to engage staff in succession planning. This is how we do it, right? So open discussion. Where do you see yourself? So when we do a performance appraisal, we recommend you do a minimum of twice a year. Open discussion. Where do you see yourself in the business? What's some of the things that, some of your aspirations? What would you like to do? And that can come through part of performance conversation. A skills assessment. So again, we've actually with a company, Gene has done a brilliant job of this with an organisation. Everyone wants to be a leader, right? So that's great. So I want to get paid more. Okay, so that's the first thing that's come out of it. But then what she's done is she's gone in and she's done a skills assessment and said to this person, well, this is where you are. And for you to manage this department, you need to be here. So let's put a plan in place of what you've got to do over the next 6 months to go from here to here, and then we can reward you and make it all happen. And the fact that communication with the manager has actually happened and the person sees it, well, that's created huge motivation for that person. And you don't have to go and tell them to do the training. They'll actually start to self-train themselves and start asking questions, which is a good one. So we set those goals and objectives through one-on-one performance conversations. And, we let them know if a new position is coming available and what does that actually look like. And then if there's change within the business, and it happens, so some companies might lose a leader, they've won Tats Lotto and decided they're going to go and retire. That's part and parcel of what actually happens. So we can't, as owners, realise we're going to hold our staff forever, but we're going to try our very, very best to create that environment, be that employer of choice, that they don't want to leave. And if they do leave, they want to come back quickly, because that's a sign of good energy. So again, this is just what happens within a business. So when we talk about training and developing staff and the outcomes, Like I'm massive on this. Like if we train them, what happens is for them is the self-satisfaction, feel valued, empowered. As it says there, they've got purpose, they're more productive, there's more job satisfaction, there's more rewards. There's got to be rewards in for the team if they're going above and beyond and they're upping their skills. I always talk about what constitutes a pay increase. Well, I don't, I understand we've got the CPI increase and stuff like that, but which most companies don't pay. But what constitutes a pay increase for an employee? Well, if they're going above and beyond and they're trying their hardest to grow your business and take ownership of their role even more so, then there should be reward for effort. That is just, you would have to do that and want to do that. Providing the business is going well. And again, that's part of the success. What does it do for the business? We end up with skillful and talented employees, increased productivity, reduce waste time, reduce wasted time. So people, how do I do this? How do I do that? So, when companies lose a key staff member, they lose IP in their business, and that takes a long time for somebody else to come and learn that process. Fewer mistakes and less rework, better customer outcomes. And the big thing we all try our hardest to do is that more profitability, being more profitable in our business, because if we're profitable, we can grow and we can reward our team more. I think that's the win-win that happens when we're doing it. And then the payoff for training staff, where as it says, we increase their value, they increase that skill capability, you improve efficiencies, and empowerment's a big word, right? And some people say it's a fluffy word, but I'm always asking my team, how can we improve this process better? What do you think you can do? And then, when we start getting for an example, some examples, we turn it into a project. And a project is something that has a start and a finish time. And part of that process is that person is showing leadership, they're showing ownership. So it's a no-brainer that you're going to develop that person through because they've already got that, what's that word? They've got that drive to actually make it happen. So again, motivation, culture, the output of what we do with our clients, better revenue, increased staff retention, and that funny word down the bottom there of employer of choice, I think is really, really important. Okay, so staff is all about best practice, right? So what does best practice look like? So a lot of people don't put a value on HR, right? HR, I go to HR when I'm in trouble. Let's do it the other way around. Let's do it. Let's be the proactive way of doing it. Let's get our org chart done like I just showed you. Let's build some roles and responsibilities to the org chart. Let's show them that we've got vacant roles coming up. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to grow. Let's get our policies, procedures right. Get our performance conversations right, because all of this drives great outcomes. And wages are one of your biggest expenses of your business. So we want to invest in that to try and get it to a point where people want to come to work rather than they have to. And I've said that 2 or 3 times today. Okay, are there any questions on the second topic? And if anyone wants to put something in there, feel free to go and do that. My third topic and final topic is about how to develop and lead them to success. So, and again, sometimes, and this has happened, we've put this responsibility on somebody and we really push them. This is where we think we should be and this and that. And then they've come back and said, you know what? I really don't want to do this. This is not right for me. Well, okay, I'd rather know that earlier than them hanging on to them for another 1 or 2 years if they don't want to be in your business. So, again, I think it's really important. But this is for me, this is part of our career business that Lorraine works in as well. But, we talk about, if you're not developing your up and coming talent, then be prepared that they will most likely leave, right? And that younger generation of today, as I said, they want to get there quicker than before, right? So it's really it's interesting just just seeing the different dynamics of how our workforce is today compared to what it was 10 years or 20 years ago. It's just totally changed. It's actually everything's changed since COVID. So again, we've got to create that right environment. But if we talk about an employee's life cycle and how we develop this, this performance management, which people see as a dirty word, and I don't like the word performance management, prefer to call it performance coaching. But again, this is the process. This is from Ari, right? So again, we get job analysis. We need an org chart, job descriptions. We set those KPIs and accountabilities, and that's what we're here to do the job. All right. And again, when we're doing our recruiting, we're selecting talent, we're setting expectations, and we're setting performance standards. So the way we coach it, second interview, give them a copy of the PD. Let them go through it. So, after the first, do a phone screen. I like the sound of this person. There's a good fit to us in the business. We then interview the first round about skill level and capability. And then the next third what's the second face to face or third interview is you then you give them a copy of the PD and go, do you think you can do this job, and see if they're a good culture fit, and start showcasing some of the work that you actually do that is going to so they can see themselves and visualize themselves coming into your business, and this is part of the process. Younger generation want to know where they can grow. So again, when you're talking to them, you've got to explain this is what part of our process, and we've done that very, very well with the HR side of the business, being admin, a coordinator, advisor, consultant. I think we've done that, and we've had people who've been with us for long periods of time, 7 years plus, and they've moved on because they've got other aspirations. I'm a realist. We're a small business. We try our hardest to keep it, but and their lifestyles change. They've had families and stuff like that. That is all part of the process of what happens when we employ staff. And I'm really hoping I'm coming across that what I'm talking to you about is real. It is real. It's not. I'm not making stuff up. That reward and recognition. So we identify good performers, the reward for great performance, give them the feedback, reinforce the values and behaviours of what you're going to do. And this is where we start to identify our key leaders within the business, our future leaders, and then again the performance appraisals. How do we then have that conversation? And then obviously, if they're not performing, the disciplinary speaks for itself. But that learning and development and that succession plan is around how you do that career planning with them, and what does it look like with them in your business. So I think when we look at the employee life cycle, they say if you can get 2 years out of a millennial today, you're doing very, very well. And unemployment at the moment is at 4.1% or around that figure, so it's a bit harder for the employers as it is for the employees. So again, that just I will tell anybody that's why you put more emphasis on building your business and let them know that we want to promote within and grow our business. How do you do it? Leadership. Lead your team, strategy. Update it, refresh it. If you don't have one, you need to get one, because again, we know, and you can download a template off our website, but we know that if you've got strategy and you've got great communication and you're showing the team where you're going, you run it like a football club, you build that team, then people will want to stay and contribute to that. Most people will want to stay. Yep. The good ones, I'll say. Get that clarity, buy-in from your stakeholders, work together to empower others, and those team meetings. So we're always picking up from where we left off. We create those celebration wins, milestone moments, and recognition and praise. So just before I move on to the next slide, I just want to explain to you that being that well-oiled machine, if I can say. So, on a Friday in our business, we get reports sent out. Now, we can go into a system and see the reports ourselves. But, leadership is about, somebody sending those reports out and people reading them and taking ownership. So, on a Friday, a report goes out, where we're at with our clients that we do recruiting for, where are we at with our pipeline report of proposals, our leads that have come in, people that have made inquiries, what are we doing with them, right through to a WIP. This is how we're performing to the week, to the month, to the quarter to date. All this hits on a Friday afternoon. So, the expectation is, the team sees how the business is performing. And then on a Monday, when we get together as a team, I did it this morning. I asked them, what was the email that Belinda sent out on Friday? Where are we at with our numbers? Because that is part of, I expect my team to know. I don't expect them to come in and me tell them all the time. They need to know where they're at. How are we going with this proposal? Who's following them up? Do I need to get involved? All of that process is about building that engine room within your business. And again, everyone contributes. So, our mission is good to great. So we start off by saying, let's reflect on last week. Tell us a bit about your week. Who did we take from good to great? Is there any client out there that we're struggling with or you need a hand with? Or is there anything I need to know? Do I need to get involved with the client? And, something come up this morning. So so straight away, I will ring the client and just check in to make sure everything is right. That is teamwork 101. And I can't, I'm proud of my team, and hopefully that comes through because we are a good team, and we practice what we preach. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to get across here is you got to show that you're actually doing this within your business, and you really want that succession planning happening to get it to the next level. I made a comment before about employer choice, but here it is again. It's slightly different, but that reputation is important. The attitude, the positive communication. We can give constructive communication, but we don't do it in an open forum. We bring someone into a room, we have a conversation with them. Directors, leaders, managers, supervisors, team leaders, whatever you are, we've got to teach them on how to do this in a professional environment. We worked with a business that's got 77 staff. Their culture in their business, and we did a culture rating, is at 82%. There's a case study on our website. It's a funeral home called William Barrett Funerals. What changed that business is the leadership, identifying the emerging leaders and training them on how to lead. And so we've got, departments all on the same page. And, I just think that is what we want to do as a business, because we keep our key employees, they help us grow, and they help us develop what we need to do. So I can't echo that enough in my conversation. Again, the employees manage daily, the boomerang effect is what I said with Allyson, loves that comment. Flexible, good benefits, training the job and training, let's just get them to a point where they are a massive resource for your business. When you lose a key staff member, and we've lost them in our business over the years, we've been in business for 17 years. I remember when we first lost our first staff member, Lorraine, my wife cried for a week and a half, right? Just devastated. But that is fact of life. You do everything you possibly can to create that environment for people to stay. And that's just how it works. So building relationships is a big thing with your team, right? So you want to build relationships because, again, that's how and I'm not a fan of, you go out to lunch and you live out of each other's pockets of your leaders, because we see companies that do that and then again, it's pear-shaped. But what I am a fan of is learning about your team, learning about your future leaders, create that succession plan, and find out what motivates them and how you can help with their family. So I say to my team, I'm responsible for the food you put on your table. I'm responsible for helping you, pay that mortgage off, go on a family holiday, all the above. We want to build that relationships. For me, it's very important to learn about the kids, the partners, and even the fur babies, the pets. So again, all that is part of building relationships with your team to get that good outcome. So here's some facts for you, and rather me ramble on about what I believe in, which I do believe in, and I know it works because we've proven it time and time again. But what we do know, that if you build really good relationships and have a real strong workplace relationships, a strong culture with your team, that increased employee engagement satisfaction will increase. So 70, as it says, the employees that feel more supported in the workplace are 70% more engaged and 21% more productive. Now, I look at your bottom line and go, well, okay, if I got another 21% out of my team, what would that do to my bottom line? Yeah. Improved collaboration and teamwork. Employees who trust in their team experience 74% less stress and 50% being more productive. Well, today's world, everything you turn on TV is stressful, right? So media, they love hamming things up. And I will say, I've got to make that comment, that silly idiot who was having an affair with his partner over there, I think it was in Canada, with his HR manager. So again, that just sends a wrong message right through the entire business. So again, we want to make sure we've got that, that productive going. Enhanced communication. So, we've done a webinar on communications, but workplaces demonstrate enhanced communication lead to higher levels of innovation and performance. I need help. I need you to go and do this research. I need to come back and tell me what we need to do within the business. Career development. Research shows that companies who develop their staff boost morale, retain top talent, and provide a pipeline for future leaders. There is my point to this webinar. Reduce stress levels. So employees who have positive interactions at their workplace experience 23% less stress levels. The amount of work cover claims we do in this business of people being stressed is huge. And, we do them. It's not the favorite part. We like working on the proactive stuff rather than the reactive stuff. And then that positive workplace culture, which I've talked about all the way through this webinar, companies who promote and deliver positive work environments see a 50% increase in employee satisfaction, which leads again to a 21% boost in productivity. So wherever you are within your business, this is what it's about. How do I set up an environment where it's a great place to come to work, and we build our own teams within the team, and which is all goes back to the book of Jim Collins. Build your leaderships within, build your leaders within, because you're going to end up be more beneficial later down the track. If you haven't got the skill level, then yes, you need to go and try and find it, but then you build that succession plan with that particular person. So the stats that I just read out to you, here are where we got them from. And again, we see time and time again, we go into lots of businesses, and we see businesses that are very, very good at communication and set their people up for success. And we see the reverse, where they've been so busy being busy working in their business, they haven't had time to have those conversations with their staff. I remember talking to one person saying, we just can't afford, right, to take a half a day out of our business and bring the team together to talk about the future of this business. Okay, we'll do it of a night time. I say we can't not afford to do that, because if you lose some key staff members, then you're going to be in a worse position. There's nothing worse in a business, and we've seen it, where people have left, and then the IP of the business has left the business, and then that next level is left, and then there's no IP in the business, and then it goes from worse to disaster, and we don't want that, and that's part of why we do it. Do we have any questions? All right, so feel free to add any questions you like in the chat box, and I hope I've done you proud, giving you my as much information as I possibly can, but more importantly, what I believe in and what I know works in a company. So come on, don't be shy. Throw a couple of questions at me, because I'd love to be challenged. I think feel free if you want to ask some questions. I'll give you. I don't have a time clock. Should have a time clock, but I'll give you 10 seconds. Come on, someone asked me a question about what would you do in this situation, or can you give us a bit of advice on this? While you're doing that, I will just go to the next one, and don't be shy. But if you want some information, you can go to our website. There's free download information. We have an emerging leaders program which we're about to update. We do engagement surveys, change management. But again, if you're in a situation, I would say just reach out to us, because we're here to help, and happy to have a conversation to see what we can do to support you. Okay, so no one's game enough to give me a question, so here we go. Is there anything specific you would add to the non-for-profit sector? So even with non-for-profit specific, so again, we work with some non-for-profits, and we work. I can give you a case though. So we worked with a non-for-profit that what we did, we created a strategic plan, and we said this is where we want to go, and we actually would like to own the corridor of our territory, right? And we would like to expand, and part of our growth model is we would like to merge with another business down south, or even acquisition. And this wonderful CEO that I worked with the board, we put a plan in place, and we educated the team. This is where what we need to do, where we need to grow. And that was put out, and 18 months later, there was a merger. And the merger has happened, and it's gone through. And what's happened, like anything, it was actually an acquisition. Started off as a merger, become an acquisition. People don't like to be taken over, I can assure you of that. But part of that process was, how do we get everyone on board? So we did an offsite. The team come away offsite. I was the MC. I was the host of the day. We talked about collaboration. We talked about cohesiveness, why that is important, and why the company has to do what they needed to do. And what a lot of the staff don't realise is, just because you're a non-for-profit, they felt that the business doesn't need to make money, but every business needs to make money. So, back in the 80s and 90s, lots of non-for-profits were given, good money from our government to be supportive. where that's not there anymore. So my answer to that, Emma, is I think what you need to do is you need to go back and go, hey guys, we're a non-for-profit organisation. We need to have a growth plan in place. We need to make sure that we stay in business, and this is what it looks like. And I'd encourage you to bring your team together and use a bit of that emotional intelligence. What would you do in this situation? Because most companies have all the answers lie within their team. I make a living of going extracting that and repackaging it and putting it back together. But I think that non-for-profit sector is no different to a commercial sector, in my opinion, in today's world. Again, we need to have the right behaviours in staff. We need to make sure we've got the right org chart, the structure, all the things that I've gone through today, and create that carrot. And most people that work in a non-profit sector, we work in the funeral industry, and we see people are passionate about the funerals that they do, but not necessarily about the business. And that's a mindset we've been working really hard with a lot of funeral homes in changing, that the brand is so important and you need to be part of this brand. So part of your non-for-profit sector is you might have staff that are there because they want to help somebody with disability, right? And that's what they want to do, and that's why they're there. But you've got to create that overarching of, we are actually a business, even though we're non-for-profit. We need to actually make sure that we hit our KPIs to stay in business. I hope I've answered that question. But when I go into non-for-profit sectors, that's something that I talk about. And I've had it. Oh, don't get this guy in. He's going to make changes. He's going to do this. People don't like change. But if they see the benefit of change and why you need to change, then you have a much higher success rate in keeping your key staff members and getting everyone on board. So this is our next webinar, the power of effective staff inductions. You like that? Thanks, Emma. This is our journey map of what we do. We do our strategy. We work on leadership and train people. It is about the culture, and then there's that support that you need to get that clarification on compliance and stuff. If you really enjoyed this webinar and you got value out of it, and you thought that I was okay, then please give us a Google rating so we can sell more people to our webinars. If I've disappointed you in any way, then feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to have a chat. But overall, I'm more than happy to have a chat anyway. If I can add any form of value to your business or non-for-profit business, that's going to take you to that next level. So I want to say thank you very, very much for being part of our webinar today. This will be recorded, has been recorded. A copy of this webinar will be up on our website in the next few days, and we're missing a marketing person, so it's going to take us a bit of time to get that done. But if you want a copy of it, feel free to email us, and we will send you a copy early if you actually need it. So thank you very, very much for this being part of the team for this webinar. I hope I've done you proud. Hope you've walked away with some tips, 4 or 5 tips that you go, you know what, we've got to put this back into the business. And again, if we can be a resource, please reach out. Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes our webinar, and enjoy the week ahead.